Hello and welcome to the seventh episode of the Green Sofa Dialogues. My name is Jennifer Porto, and joining me today, Claire Roumet, Director of Energy Cities, and Piero Pellizzaro, who is the Chief Resilience Officer for the municipality of Milan. Hello and welcome to both of you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I think the first question that I'd like to ask is, what is a smart city, or what makes a city smart? Piero?
Thank you very much. A smart city for us as a city of Milan has been always seen not as a technological driven or infrastructure driven cities, but it's more the capability of a city administration to enable a smart community. Because to have a smart cities, you need to have before a smart community that is capable and to use this new technology, to use this new solution that we are looking forward to improve the sustainability, the efficiency, and the innovation of our territory. So, as smart cities for us, it's first of all, it's how we can create a community that is aware that technology could help us to move forward in terms of efficiency and sustainability. But on the other end, as smart cities, it's not only technological. Smart cities could also create a community that is active and is proactive in adopting innovative solution. And innovative solution is meaning only process. It could be also to, for example, how we can work together to maintain the green. It's part of a smart community. It is not the typical approach that we have seen around the globe. When we think about smart cities, we believe that all this IT company could provide us the final solution for a smart city. The first solution for a smart city is our citizen, and our citizens, they are capable and ready to use a new innovation process, new approach, and new methodology for the future development of the city.
And Claire, for you, what is a smart city, or what makes a city smart?
So indeed, it's a very good question, because smart city has been around for so long now. It's almost 10 years that we have seen the development of support from national states or from the European Union to make sure that indeed cities would become smart. And there have been a lot of different thinking around it. And what is quite funny is that I think it's all landed into the same kind of definition, which is exactly what Piero just mentioned, which is basically finding a way to get all the tools to make sure that the community gets the future of the districts and the future of the city in its hands. So it's really all the kind of device and taking the innovation and the tool that exists to make sure that you can really try to share much more the energy production, that you can share, you can increase a lot the car sharing, you can look better at your public transport, you can basically optimize a lot of the flows that usually were the definition of the city and define the city, and make sure that you're becoming some much more efficient. But this was the beginning, and now the end of, I would say, or at least where we go, is that very few EU initiatives now are speaking about smart cities. The new wording is climate neutral cities, which basically is the same, but it's more like towards a specific end, when the smart city was looking at the tool only. But it has been a tool. It's a tool to make sure that you involve much better citizen, and that the local authorities is much more empowered to look at its own flows of energy, its flows of cars, its flows of resources, and ensure that there is a large participation of all the stakeholders into upgrading this system to something much more integrated. So that was the way to try to integrate different sectors at district level, and then to make a plan for the city. But today, what we see is that it's more like there is a move towards a very specific target that needs to be reached. And then the smart city is a tool. the smartness of the city is a tool. And it's not necessarily the smartest cities that would be the best equipped to arrive and to be climate neutral, because it quite depends on many other aspects, basically.
What are some of those other aspects?
But for example, you don't need to be smart to have much more bikes. This is not a need. And then it goes a little bit beyond, because the smart city was indeed really linked to the building stock mostly. Yeah? But it goes it goes around, and it has been more like a sector integrating more sectors, and it was needed to integrate in more sector. But to put bike lanes and to just decide that half of the roads would be like currently Barcelona is doing, and I've decided to go a step further in its urban mobility planning ambition, and to really reduce by, I think it's by to only allow cars to be on 30% of the current space that is used by cars. So it's really, 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 really drastic. And for this, you don't need to be smart. You just need a good planning and a good willing. Although it requires to have much more tools to allow the mobility flow to be fluid. So it helps you for the flexibility too, and to reduce the number of cars by having some apps or having some. But this is mobility, and the smart cities is also the building side.
So let's put this together then. And Piero, then I want to ask you about bicycle lanes. Milan, I know, has done some incredible work this year and has pretty big plans. Perhaps you could speak to that also in the terms of bike lanes as a solution, as an idea of smart cities and climate neutral cities, or making a city climate neutral.
Well, let me say something that will be not the best answer for you. I mean, I do believe that all these smart, resilience, climate neutral are a lot of related to brands. How we can then scaling innovation and solution, because at the end of the day, we need to make our cities safety and livable for our community. So, thinking about what we are living at the moment in terms of pandemic and the virus that is affecting our respiratory aspect of the body, what we have now to think is how we reduce the exposure of our community to a potential risk of new disease. And one for sure that is the main element is to reduce the air pollution, especially in an area as Milan is one of the polluted area in Europe due to the conformation and morphology of the Pianura Padana. So when we start thinking about the phase 2 after the first lockdown, because we are in the second one at the moment, we were thinking, okay, what is the necessity, what is the need for the city at the moment, and what could be the same needs that we had before, how we can continuously keep going this flow of transformation, of transition of the city. And the bike lines comes as an opportunity for us to maintain the physical distance, was an opportunity to scaling necessary transition that we already have in mind and we were already implementing in moving from the individuals, the car-driven society to a more let's say community transport society, and community driving societies, meaning the public transport, meaning become more bicycle or bike city and more a pedestrian city because you have more time. So one of the solutions we were considering to become more intelligent or smart was absolutely the mobility aspect. As Claire was saying that there is a lot of doing. We have more than 12,000 bike in sharing, station based, and free ride. So we have 7 operators of the car sharing, because we also believe that car sharing is part of the offers we should give to foreigners, to businessmen and women, but also to our community. So if they really need a car, they have an option. But then there is something else that is important, as Claire mentioned. One is, if you think that in 2050, 80% of the population we will live on existing housing. So it's meaning that we will not have new house or new flats or new land to cover with concrete building. It means that retrofitting and the urban regeneration process is a key element of the future of smart cities, because we need to retrofit the ancient building and let them become more efficient in terms of performance, but at the same time in terms of comfort. That is also important, because the efficiency leads to climate change mitigation, the comfort leads to climate change adaptation, because there will be new kind of climatic conditions in the near future in terms of heat, so heat waves, or cold waves, or extreme weather events. So we need to work. On the other, one of the other solutions we are looking at, so that we say building, we say mobility, is the public space. And the public space should become back at the heart of the community. So we should not living our life on the sofa, but we should live our life on a square, our life on a bench together with the others. So how we can do it? We need to make it more accessible to everyone, and we should make this more free space. And then here we need to have less car and less parking slot and more seat and more play, more space for pupils to play, because that is essential in the near future. So working on the urban forest program, so this is the 3 million tree equivalent before 2030 in the metropolitan area, is for us as equal as to develop a bike lines, because we normally call that one a mobility infrastructures. This is a green infrastructures. It's the same kind of infrastructures with the different numbers, with a different kind of design, but it's the same. So sometimes to become a climate neutral or a smart community is to start considering that the green and blue infrastructures are the same as the gray infrastructure. That is not common. So when we think about an infrastructure, we say highway, we think street, we think bridge. But having a forest, an urban forest, is a real infrastructure. It's in terms of monitoring, in terms of the pavement and the capacity of drainage of the water. So for us, greening the cities, it's another element of climate neutral. And on the other end, we have a program that is based, we have a couple of programs, based on the tactical urbanism approach, is to make people aware of how the potential transformation of public space could be acceptable, and it could become even more attractive, the same place for business and the others, because people stay and relax. So we have open square, so it's Piazza Aperte, that there is a temporary rethinking of our public space around the cities. We paint this with the yellow light colors. And why? Because that also reduces the heat island effect in the cities. We are located there bike station for the bike sharing. We located there a tennis table, for example, to make people play together. And now maybe we become the new Chinese, the European Chinese from tennis table, because it's really, there is competition tournament around the city now. It's wonderful, especially over the lockdown. We've seen this light lockdown we are living now, how many people are now going there and play together as one of the few things they can do it. So we create recreational space as well. So, and all this action is also considering that the climate neutral infra investment or the smart investment are not only environmental, are more solutions that could reduce the inequality, could bring back nature into the cities. It's also increase the attractiveness of the same space for shop and for other commercial activities. So one necessary step forward we should make as a community in Europe is to consider the green infrastructure are the same as the gray infrastructures, and on the other end, consider the climate investment are not only environmental, but it's more for social and for economical investment. As say the new elected president, Joe Biden, when he said, when I think of climate change, I think about job. I'm not thinking about environment. So that is the main things we should look at all these new solutions, including the green one.
Thank you very much, Piero. Claire, I heard you, or I saw you nodding and smiling to a number of points that Piero made, forests and open squares, public spaces. And I want to ask you if you'd like to respond to any of those in particular.
Yes, definitely. I think it's really exactly, I think Pierrot just sketched where the cities are now. And indeed, it's quite striking, for example, to see that to find an answer to the amazing sanitary crisis in which we are, that nobody could foresee. Basically, none of what we have tried to do on the smart city really helped. It doesn't mean that what we have done so far was not good, but it means that indeed we need to start it to have a look to another angle, because we need smart technologies to make sure that indeed we have a better way of how tracing people for sanitary reasons, or how can we deliver food to everybody on real time. But the questions are completely different than the one that we were asking the smart city kind of concept to answer. At that time, we wanted the smart city concept to answer the most efficient buildings that are lighting up alone, and heating up alone. Well, but those buildings are just completely empty today, because these are offices building, and the people are working from home. So it's just like yeah, it's not a nonsense, but it really asks us to look at how can we use everything we've learned under the smart cities programs, and all the progress we have done under the smart cities programs that exist everywhere, and the smartest cities, like in China also, and how can we indeed use that for the current context. And in that case, as Pierre was mentioning, is a lot about low tech. It doesn't really to paint the streets doesn't require to have any kind of a huge massive software development. And but not only, indeed, it's also about tactical urbanism. So this, what does it mean? It means flexible. It's flexible response. It's something that is really like on the moment. You need to find a short-term solution that doesn't have to be a long-term way to go. It can be something just for it's a quick fix, we call it. And sometimes you just need quick fix. And this is also, so for the moment there is not such a good links between the two worlds, the world that helped to have much better districts, and extremely intelligent districts, and the world that is basically asking a quick fix for an unpredictable crisis. This said, what helped a lot, the smart cities, that did help a lot in starting to ask, to require for cities a much more strategic urban planning, which integrates different sectors. So we have really seen, for example, Vienna, one of our members, they have used the smart city for now a concept for quite a long time. They even have a smart city agency that is responsible to implement the strategy. And I think they have already done 3 strategies in a row. So it's like more than 12 years. And now they are basically having a strategy about climate neutrality. But before, they had the time to build the block of the different of the cooperation between the different sectors. So, for example, they made sure that indeed each time there is a building renovation, there would be a huge part of on-site energy production, and that this energy production, thanks to the smart technologies, could be shared between the different inhabitants, and to do a lot of energy community. So they used a lot for doing energy community in Vienna. This helped them, this kind of very integrated approach through different strategic planning already done under the smart city approach. It allows them to have now the capacity to do a much more ambitious plan. And so they have announced, for example, 2 weeks ago, that Vienna would reach climate neutrality by 2040. They will have a climate protection law, and in this climate protection law, it will be embedded that by 2040, they will have a complete exit of fossil fuel from all the heat needed in the entire city, meaning that the individual gas boiler would be, from next year, prohibited for any new building, and will be phased out in the next 20 years in existing building. So it means that then they have a much better knowledge. And this is, I think, the smart city, what it helped amazingly everywhere where we had the problem when we have the program, sorry, it's really to have a much better knowledge of what are the exact needs, because finally it's all it's basically what it helped is aggregate data that they were existing in a meaningful way that can help real strategic decisions. So therefore, I think that has been delivered. And for the next stage, I suppose we will need something else. We at least I think we need another kind of concept, because the smart city is not enough anymore, or it doesn't encompass what are the challenges today. Just to know that indeed to add for the Vienna strategy is that for reaching climate neutrality by 2040, they also need to reduce transport emission by 50%. So they will go, they have also, so, but all this they know because they have a much better knowledge of their city. And this has been helpful to have a really long-term planning exercise with smart cities approach.
So let me think for just a moment. This sort of innovative technology, this like on-site energy production, which can then respond real time to energy needs in a specific part of the city. What else? What other technologies, what other innovations would help to create or can take Vienna or any other city to climate neutrality? Piero?
Well, I think that all the digital services that a city can offer in terms of getting to your cities and to your communities is helping us to more the climate neutrality. I try to express myself a bit more clear. We are now working on the 15-minute cities concept. So it's meaning when you step out from your house, you should have all the essential need that you have. So not your job place, not your job place, but more a school, more getting access to the public services in 15 minutes walking from your house. So since June, for example, here in Milan, you can get your birth certificate in a newspaper shop. You go in a newspaper shop, what you normally get from the CTO or my colleague's desk, you can get from a newspaper. So this seems that it's only a digital services, so you're improving your digital agenda. But at the end of the day, you reduce the people moving, taking cars, taking public transport to move from maybe a district to where is located the desk office of the municipality. This is meaning we become more paperless, so we use less paper, and all these kind of digital services is another contribution to make the city more climate neutral. So, and it's getting out from the concept of the energy and mobility itself to become carbon neutral, because carbon neutral is really a revolution in terms of you changing your everyday life. Another element we believe that it's important is the food policy, for example. So to become a climate neutral as a city, you also have to change your way of how you buy your food, you consume your food, and you produce your food. So working on regenerative economy for soil and linking to the waste management. So from the organic waste, you get the compost. From the compost, you start producing also and work for your agriculture and becoming a more sustainable agriculture. And then if you are capable to close the loop and taking this food produced and sent to your school, that is become another big contribution in terms of carbon neutrality. Or another element we are doing to improve the climate neutrality, we have an agreement. We make this opportunity for all the bar and restaurant that if they have products that it's close to the expiry date, and instead to trash, they deliver in advance to association that could be used for supporting the, let's say, the vulnerable population. That is for them, it's an advantage because they reduce their taxes. But on the other end, we reduce the waste, and reducing the waste, we also become more close to the carbon neutrality. So here again, it's a matter of solution technology as the digital service through the interoperability platform and all the digital services. And the other one is the food. That is the food. It's not a technology, it's a practice, it's an approach. So all these kind of elements together, they become a carbon neutral. So it's not only energy, it's not mobility, it's food, it's services, it's it could be also, but it's not in charge of us, how the way you decide to buy your clothes as well. But it is not on the hand of the city. What the city could do it, and especially a city as Milan, and is what we are working, is to try work with the producer and the designer to how we can reduce the materials they use, but also how we can reconnect all these elements. So again, to become smart and carbon neutral, we need to get looking out of the fence line and thinking about other elements that are not traditionally covered by the existing dialogues on smart city.
One of the big changes that we made, we now compost on our balcony. And I have to say that I love composting at home. It's one of the nicest things that we've ever done. But I want to come back to, you talked about getting birth certificates at newspaper kiosks, and this on a city administration level. What else can we do to create a more interactive or responsive city administration like this, where you can say this idea of this 15-minute city? Claire?
Well, here you touched very important questions, because actually, to answer your first question, which is about innovation, what are the next innovations we need? Well, the innovations we need actually are basically governance innovation and sharing partnerships and really complete. So in the case of this example of birth certificates in the press corner, this is really a new way of organizing the public service, but it's much more than that. Today, I think it's quite funny, because it means that the city will have to basically will ask the support of the economic actors to deliver part of their mission. But in return, they will also take much more active role into the economic sector itself, because what will be asked to a city today, in the next years, is much more to enter into the economic ecosystem to facilitate the exchange between the different economic actors. So far, the city was always looking like regulating the markets and getting completely outside and no ends on the economic ecosystem at local level, which is the exact contrary of what will happen in the future, where without becoming the only actor, of course, it's not that at all. They will need to come in to facilitate much more and to act as a neutral kind of guiding actor that helps all the different ecosystems to be built. For example, I'm giving the example of the building renovation. So the building renovation is not at all usually done in the right standard. It's always missing the point of the real efficiency, because all the different actors that are everybody you need to do a good building renovation, it's not only one person, it's many different kind of economic actors. You need also the finance, you need a good solar panel installer, you need a good roof insulation, you need to have the boiler. These are different people, the different sectors at local level, and you need to make sure that they can work together, and that doesn't happen like that. It requires to have a good coordination, a good facilitation, and this is basically what a new role for local authorities. So we see that emerging everywhere. We call it the one-stop shops, where indeed it's easier for an individual to go, and then basically the good business that you can refer to in this sector will have a kind of a certificate, because otherwise the quality is not there. If the quality is not there, you don't you don't go anywhere. But this is only one example. The other example was also given by Piero, when you need to have, for example, there is a wasted heat in one industry that can basically be used into a school next, then there is no need to put gas into your heating system. You just need to recover the heat, and then you need to agree on a kind of a price if there is a need, or maybe there is not even a price because it's a waste anyway, and then the company next will don't want to sell it. So these kind of things cannot happen if there is a specific actor that is the liaising actor. And the smart city did provide a good ground of this kind of collaboration mode that is needed in between the different sectors. So we hope that there is the good basis to build on this. But it's true that the same way that the municipalities will rely on economic actors to deliver a number of public services that today was really administrative and seen as something that could not be done outside the local authorities' offices. It's also at reverse in a way that indeed economic actors will require much more an active role of the local authorities in the economic sector. It can go much further than that, because, for example, on putting solar panels on schools, this is a public roof. The solar panel, and it's again actually another example of Vienna, but it's not only in Vienna. The solar panel can be a citizen cooperative of energy, or can be even the parents of the schools that are, or the pupils that are in the school. And the electricity can be directly provided for the school itself. So this it requires a legal partnership, and this is where we will need a lot of innovation.
Then I want to ask you both about when we're looking at smart cities, when we're looking at climate neutral cities, what else can we do? Claire, you just had the example of solar panels on top of a school and selling that, or using that directly for the school. And that's a way to sort of maximize efficiency. What else can we do to maximize efficiency? Yeah, go ahead.
I think that one of the things we should do it, and that's it's more common at the moment in Spain and the United Kingdom. It's what we call the energy community. That is a huge opportunity coming from the European Union. And the energy community is when the school can produce not only the energy for their needs, but could become a sort of a distributed power plant around the city. So it could become a catalyzer of other PV system, and you start creating a new concept. So you have a community. Let me explain this way. You have a community. It's a community of pupils and parents. Then the school decide to get their own PV system for their self-consumption. But then if you add the PV system on the school, plus the PV system on the nearby public residential building, plus the PV system on the parking area that is around, you create a bigger PV system because they're pulling together. And then could also become the new power plant for the entire district. So it's not only considered again a PV system as an individual PV system, but could become a way how you put together different producers of energy in one community. What does it mean? It means that we are not only going climate neutral, but also we are redistributing the income of the population. We improve the equity of the population, because for once you can reduce your cost, but it's not only reducing your cost, it's also moving part of the income of a big company, of a big utilities, into the pocket of a family. So it's also a way how we should redistribute the income of the globe. So climate neutral, again, as I said before, it's a big opportunity, not only for makes our planet a better place to live, not only for environmental purpose, but also a more equal society, because you can start using on your own the natural resources the Mother Earth gives us, and not necessarily depend on a private developer or a private entrepreneurs that sell to you services based on natural resources should be for all of us. It doesn't mean that we need to quit working with the private, but as much the private has all the big company that have to deal with the energy consumption, there is all the big energy demanders that we have to be built. But once when we can do it on our own, is what we should allow as a public authorities to make it on our own community or a family on their own, because that we are improving also their safety on a side, but on the other side, they could thinking more easier to the future and less struggling with the present. That is one of the biggest problems we have around the globe, that people have to focus on the present because they cannot start thinking about the future, because they always have thinking how we should save money, how we can get money. But then if we create this kind of mechanism, we can also have a more responsible community for the future, because they have less to struggling with the present.
Claire, I'd like to give you the opportunity to respond here. I saw you nodding a lot.
Yeah, I think what smart cities approach has been so good at, it's really to increase the energy efficiency and the efficiency in general. So it was really, and actually it was the angle to make sure that indeed you maximize the efficiency, as you were mentioning. And indeed, it has two flows that needs to be addressed, and that maybe if there is a kind of a smart city 2.0 concept to be, or to make sure that the smart city is really evolving to answer the needs of the city, it needs to go much more into mapping the resources. So this is really something that basically has not been yet enough done. There is plenty of resources. Of course, there is a human resources already, but having a much better idea about who is able to provide food and where, and not, I mean, to go much beyond the energy, as Piero was mentioning. It's the problem is that now we are facing all the different sectors transition together. So it's not only about the energy and the building and the transport. Still, these three huge sector are the ones that are so incremental that you cannot do without addressing them, but it links to others. So looking at mapping the resources is something that is really still missing. We've just done finalize a project which is called Hot Map, and it's trying to it's a new device that has been produced to help, and it's part of a kind of a smart city approach to help cities to better identify where is their heat need, what kind of heat demand they have, what kind of heat resources they could use. And this is something that I think we need to be much more developed. So the resources approach is not enough engaged in, or not enough supported. And then the other thing, which is of kind of the always forgotten, is a sufficiency. It doesn't even exist really as a concept in English, so it says a lot. It's not even it's never a policy, but like in French is sobriété. It's reducing your own needs. So this is the idea. For me, this is the idea that is behind also the 15 minutes city approach, is that you reduce your own need of transport in general, but also most probably because it means that you will have a repair shop very, very close to your house, that you will also reduce your needs of goods. So the reducing of needs, it's also something that can be helped with smart city approach or with new technologies and with new device, but it's completely outside the debate and nothing has been done on that side, I would say. Only the Too Good To Go application that I don't know if it exists in your country, in your cities, but yeah, it does. So this kind of app that basically are not really linked to smart cities, but this is something that we need to develop so that we really reduce our needs.
I actually just got the To-Go app on my phone last week. My son's teacher told me about it. And it's been interesting to see how the idea of smart cities has been changed through the pandemic. If we look at these next steps, so we have mapping resources, we have reducing our needs. Piero, do you have any next steps in addition to those?
Well, let me just say, like, comment on Claire, that la sobrietà, as we say in Italian, I think it's one of the key challenge we should say. And I think it comes through our education to our as a family. So it's not from parents to kids, but in general, is as a family. Because we have, I'm 38. I grew up in the 1982. My grandfather died when I was the age, I was 14, 15. And I remember when he was tell me about after the Second World War, how I was struggling the life. And they give to my parents opportunity to go to school, but not to university. Then I got the opportunity to go to university because there were always this story coming from parents. We need to give you everything we didn't have the chance to get. And this sense that it's a really, I know, parents' purpose, that it's always good. It's always close to your, to your sentiment, let's say, or your feelings, but has an error in it because we are consuming more than what we are capable to reproduce. So that it comes when I say education. We should start teaching to our pupils, but to ourselves, that we should not get what we want, but what we need for here. Sometimes we can avoid to buy a couple of T-shirts from some of the, this kind of chain of. That I can doubt about the quality of the product. So that is the sobrietà and the sobriety that I think we should look in. But then also Claire touched something else that I think it comes. It is the urban metabolism of the cities. So it's looking when there are the resources, and then comes the circular economy. And I think that the circularity of our economy is another key element for the climate neutrality. But there is something that we have to be clear. Circular economy is not a matter of waste management, because around Europe, there are still a lot of people believe that the circular economy is the new way how we should improve our waste management. You should already done waste management. If you are a citizen, you are still taking your waste in landfill, that's not circular economy. It's a problem that you didn't deal with before. The circular economy now, it's looking when there is the resources, it's how we can use that resources to not only for one production, but maybe for multiple production, how then resources are being used, then at the end of the life of these resources, how they could come back into the system. So introducing some sort of a passport of materials or a QR code on every single materials with who we build a house, then become the next step, because it's not only how we produce, how we build a house, but then it's also how we demolish or retrofit that buildings in terms of materials, and how that materials could be used for other purpose. So that is the urban metabolism that we need to get more and more understanding of it. And then it comes mapping the resources, tracking the resources and not people. And then, so if we map and track the use of the resources, then we have an important other step, that it's almost what this Claire was saying. I think that is the next step we need to look. So how to improve our capacity to build, how is better way to design our mobility, how we improve the green, but then it's today. And then we also think when all these products are going to be at the end of their life, because everything is going to be at the end of the life, how we can then valorize, how we can improve the use of that resources again in our system. That requires mapping and tracking of materials. So if we start looking for that and we can get access to this information, we are not only doing something good for the present, we're also doing something good and to be ready in the future to keep growing our economy and to keep recovering the resources in a better way. So the circularity, we look at the circularity like we said, at the moment, we can have a more brightest future.
Thank you very much, Piero. Before we wrap up, Claire, do you have anything, final thoughts to add to that mapping, tracking of materials and circularity of resources?
No, but I would say that it would be extremely useful, because now what cities are really requesting, it's new tools indeed to have a much better knowledge of their urban metabolism. And for example, they really want to have an idea about what is their carbon budget. And for example, if you can trace each of the construction products that you use and the demolition of the buildings, if you can trace, then it helps you to know where is your carbon, how much have you spent already. And I think this is to help having an idea of how much carbon you still have, how much you can spend per year, how you can integrate more climate mainstreaming evaluation of the municipal budgets. This is indeed where we need tools in the future.
Well, my thanks to both of you, Claire Roumet, Piero Pellizzaro. Thank you both so much for joining me for this Green Sofa Dialogue. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.